Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron, and I'm back with more Battlytics action. Tonight we will be looking at the Grim Reaper. Why, you ask? Did the patrons vote for it? No, they didn't actually. I did. I picked this one. You know why? Because everyone wanted to do the Wraith, and I totally got this, the lore of this Grim Reaper mixed up with the Wraith. And when I went back and I was like, what mech was I thinking about? It's like, the Grim Reaper. So I'm doing it. I wanted to see. The Grim Reaper is another cool one. I think it was actually in the same TRO as the Wraith. I hope my memory serves me correctly there. But this one definitely was a ComStar design. And this one was built to replenish a lot of the losses that the Com Guards took. And it is just a really neat design, and it's got a cool, badass name. So very excited to take a look at this one. It has a weird array of weapons. It almost is like semi-Shadowhawk-esque in the fact that it's got long-range missiles, short-range missiles, lasers, all sorts of things. It's not as bad, though. So I'm interested to see how it does. It's got AMS, I believe, all sorts of wacky stuff on there. ER large, medium pulse. It's got a weird array of stuff. And it's only 1,400 battle value. So we'll see. Guys, will the Grim Reaper be useful? I don't know. Is anything ComStar does useful? Let's see. Stay tuned and let's find out. Here it is, the Grim Reaper. Very exciting. The GRM-R-PR29. Who came up with that? I don't know. Does it look like Grim Reaper in Elite speak? I don't think it does. Sort of does. But anyway, here we are. 55 tons, built by ComStar. Full of jokes tonight. So this one is battle value of 1469. So this one is not terribly expensive. It is a little bit more than your Succession Wars era 55 tonners, which tend to be in that, like the Wolverines, I'm thinking, and things like that. They're like 1,100, 1,200 battle value. So this one's not that much more, and it is packed with some exciting technology. So first things first, it moves at 5'8". It does not jump. It has, it can dissipate 20 points of heat a turn, and those are built on an XL Fusion engine. Standard structure, but ferrofibrous armor, and it has 100% armor coverage. I love mechs that have 100% armor coverage. It excites me. I do want to direct you, though, to the armor diagnostic in the center there, and you'll notice that the torsos are a little bit under 100%. That's because the rear armor is like through the roof. This is another one of those wacky designs where somebody pasted too much armor on the rear. I don't know why they do that, but they do it. This has all the fingers and toes that you need to pick up trees and punch your opponents in the face and do all sorts of fun things. So two-hand actuators, better than none. And as far as the weapons go, we talked about this in the intro. It's got an ER large laser. I do like the inner sphere ER large. I think that's a half decent weapon. It's got an LRM-20. It has an SRM-6, and then it has a medium pulse laser. I'm not a huge fan of the inner sphere medium pulse laser. I think the range is just a handicap on this thing, but we'll see how it does. It is packing an anti-missile system and case as well in the left torso, which is where the ammo for all the missiles is stored. Now, one point of note on the anti-missile system, as you know, or maybe you don't, in the defensive simulation, it goes against an awesome, right? That's the test mule in the defensive simulation. So there's no missiles. So what we do is we basically assume that the unit dumps the ammo. So unfortunately, you're not really going to get that AMS built into the efficiency rating, but there's no real clean way to necessarily do that. So it is what it is, but figured I would call that out. But before we get into defense, let's see how well this thing does on the offensive side. So far, so good. The one thing that jumps out at me is the heat curve on the red line benchmark. I mean, it does very well until you get into 6 inches, and that and that medium pulse laser comes into play. It can start generating heat, once the SRM-6 even gets into play. But once the medium pulse gets into play and it's alpha striking every single weapon, it can generate a decent amount, 7 points of heat per turn. But that's not bad. That's not bad. So let's take a look at the optimized damage. So the baseline is 150.7. When we optimize it, we get it up to 160, which is about a 6% gain. That's not too bad. And then the red line, it dips a little bit, 138.5. So, what does this tell me? It tells me, you just got to be smart when you're in close range. At long range, you can shoot all day and it's no problem. You can fire that LRM-20, which builds up a substantial amount of heat with the ER large. Like that's a pretty hefty tandem, but you can do that and you can move and you're in good shape. Let's take a look at the lethality index. I guess one more point before I move off of it. One more point on the damage. It's not terrible. We've seen better. We've seen worse. 160 is respectable. I think that's above average for a 55-ton mech of the inner sphere variety. But, again, with a lot of tonnage tied up in that garbage medium pulse laser, you're losing some. You're losing some on the back end there. I mean, and this is a sidebar. I mean, every time I would strip the medium pulse laser and add either 2 medium lasers or medium laser in a heat sink, depending on your slot availability and your heat load and all these things. For this one, I would almost throw 2 mediums on there and assume that your LRM-20 is, going to be out of ammo or running low on ammo by the time you actually get in. Who knows? Anyway, lethality. It doesn't do bad. It's an 87.8%. That's pretty good. It doesn't get to 100, but with the array of weapons, all of the missiles, the shotgunning effect, I wouldn't expect it to. We see 6.9% engine kills. Now, typically in this simulation, when you see engine kills, right, remember, it's not an XL engine, so you're generating 3 engine criticals on a very fragile center torso. That signals a lot of critical opportunities coming out of this mech, and that's what you would expect when you're firing all of those clusters, right? SRMs, it's 10 different cluster shots, right? 6 from the SRM, 4 from the LRMs. So, up to that number, plus 2 additional beams. So you get a lot of opportunities to generate crits. It's an average critical hit of 5.25. That's pretty good per game, right? So not too bad. Overall, pretty impressed with the damage so far. Again, and I'm keeping this contextual for a 55-ton mech that costs 1,400-ish BV, maybe closer to 1,500-ish. I'm rounding down. I'm pretty impressed so far. I think the deal breaker for the Grim Reaper is going to be, does it survive? It does have a lot of ammo on board. Yes, it does have case, but again, it's got an XL engine, right? So, it's not doing a whole lot there in terms of keeping the mech on the field from a, gameplay perspective. I get it from like a narrative or from a campaign perspective, but from a single game perspective, if you hit an ammo on that case side, the mech's still out of commission. So we'll see. Anyway, let's dive into the defense. All right, so again, great armor here. Really thrilled with the distribution, except that rear. Now, the sides in the center are only off by a couple of pips in terms of max coverage, but still, we don't need that much on the rear of a mech like this, or, really any mech, in my opinion. It just seems superfluous at this point. And, just to be clear, the total pips of armor across the rear, it's 26 across all 3 torsos, right? Do you need that much in the rear? I don't know. Maybe some of you think you do. I don't think you do. So that said, mobility analysis is fantastic. It's only got 1.8% motive hits. That means, 2 in 100 shots basically are going to hit a leg actuator and hobble this mech. That's very good. Your average target mod in the defensive sim is 2.91. That means it's seeing very little degradation over the course. And you can see in that bar chart back on the yellow one on the left, or orange, whatever color that is, it goes down to 2.5 at the very last turn. And that's the average over 10,000 simulations. That's pretty good. Survivability is 76.1%. I think that's fantastic. I'm happy with that number. I don't think it's particularly bad. It's not obviously stellar, but it's a 55-ton mech, basically charging at an awesome and getting shot at, and it survives, 3 out of 4 times to over 12 turns. That's really, really good. The primary cause of death, surprise, surprise, are ammo kills. Now, ammo kills in this scenario are, you get hit in the left torso. And I want to call out the AMS ammo in the right torso. It's shown here on the graph, but it does not factor in to these ammo deaths because it assumes you dump that ammo right out of the gate. So the left torso is where all that big meaty ammo is. It is cased, but it's still taking the mech out of commission. So it's counting as an ammo death anytime you're hitting that. And again, there's a 1 in 4 chance if you get into the left torso. So looking at the criticals, I mean, it's just, yeah, there's just a ton of, there's a ton of ammo in there, which is unfortunate. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at it now and I misspoke. The LRM ammo is in the right torso. The SRM ammo is in the left torso, but there's only a case on the left torso. Why would you do that? Why would you do that, ComStar? Oh my God. Guys, this is insanity. So I am losing my marbles here, and I do not understand why these mech designs do this. I'm actually going to go into Mega Mech right now and just confirm this. It is truth. It is truth. The LRM ammo is in the right torso. There's only a case in the left torso for... Okay, so this is mind-blowing, and I guess it's because the criticals are so packed out on that side torso, but on the right torso, you've basically got 2 critical slots that are ammo, and it's 18.2%. On the left torso, there's 1 ammo critical, but there's only 4 slots in total. 3 of them are engine. So I guess they're playing the odds there and hoping. So it is factored in. The AMS ammo still isn't factored in no matter what, but it is left and right are both taking ammo hits. No wonder that percent chance is so high. So anyway, so ammo deaths make up the most number of deaths for this mech, 11.5%. Coring this mech out is, very, very hard to do, 3.6%. Engine deaths are 8.8%. Again, got an XL engine, and with, pick your poison there. You can hit either side and take those critical slots out, or just destroy it in total, and it'll knock the engine out, absent any critical hits. So that's crazy with the ammo. That's an interesting fact there, that there's only case on the one side. All right, let's take a look at the efficiency. I still have hope, even though the design is a little weird. I still have hope because the survivability is good and the damage is good. And I want to tell you a fun fact about the damage, guys. This actually at 160 points is the highest 55 tonner that we've looked at in terms of mechs. Things that are in this ballpark that we've looked at from a Battlytics perspective: the Rifleman 5M, the Hammerhands, surprisingly, at 162, and the Victor 9D/9K, which are 164, and the Awesome HQ, the 8Q, which is 165. So all of those mechs are in the 5 to 7 efficiency range. Let's see where this one lands. So here it is. The numbers are in. The efficiency rating is 7.12. That's another solid design. You'll see the bell curve changed a little bit. That's been updated with all the most recent mechs, so that's pretty exciting. And you can see this one sits sort of in the beyond the good mech range. So right at that inflection point between 6 and 7 is where you see sort of a string of mechs sit that I think are really good bang for buck. Your average is still around a 5, maybe a little over a 5, 5.5 or so. But a 7.12, very, very good. Now let's talk about the damage loss. So this thing has very good survivability. It's doing half decent damage on the back end, really good damage in the mid game. It does peak at closer range. However, the survivability is still good enough that you're not seeing a massive separation between our effective ACD and our optimized ACD. And that combined with a very, I think, reasonable price tag at 1469 BV, I think this thing puts us in a really good spot. Now, effective damage by gunnery. So our gunnery sensitivity, let's look at all that stuff in the middle. You can definitely see a pretty good return on investment if you want to put better gunners in this thing. So at gunnery 0, it's an 8.18 efficiency rating. That's very, very high. And your effective damage is 210.32. So if you're going to go nuts and play this thing at a high gunnery, you basically you keep it at range. Don't even worry about that medium pulse laser. And then, once you've done substantial or sufficient damage, you can bring that SRM-6 into play or use that defensively. And that's all for like 2,500 battle value, right? That's a gunnery 0 pilot in this mech. At gunnery 2, which is where we run all of our benchmarks, it's still 2,057, which is a very reasonable number for a gunnery 2 mech, in my opinion. So overall, I mean, this thing is definitely, I think, one of the best we've looked at in terms of the weight class. Now, in terms of efficiency for its weight class, let me see if there's anything that's higher. The Bushwhacker actually was an 8.5. That was very good. And that had 153 for optimized damage. That was pretty good. But most of like your Wolverines and things like that, they are just not as good as this thing, period. And I think that massive LRM-20, the ER large laser, that gives it a lot of bite at range. It brings this mech into the fight early, and that's a huge driver here. Speaking of fighting, let's talk about where I would use this mech on the battlefield. For me, I would pick 3 roles for this particular Grim Reaper variant. The first one is a second line mech. This would be primarily how I would use this mech. I would chill with the fire support line. I would drop in LRMs until that hopper was low. Basically, so you have 2 bins of 6. I would shoot 6 and scratch 1 bin off your available criticals, right? Like, don't let them take that out. And then I would close in. I would get the SRM-6 into range. If I need to get close enough to get that pulse laser in range, you can do it. But that's how I would play this mech. I would keep it in the fight as long as I could. And I mean, the LRM and the ER large, again, it can move and shoot everything, not build up any heat. That's fantastic. The second role is defensive, where you're guarding an objective, the enemy is coming to you. I mean, they're going to have to, weather a hail of gunfire before they get into, close range. And then you've got the SRM-6, which is a devastating weapon, and the medium pulse laser, which can hold its own. And if you're running hot, the medium pulse laser is fantastic because you don't have to worry about that gunnery penalty as much. So you could just shoot the medium pulse, still guarantee yourself a hit, and then bleed off the rest of your heat. So some cool things you can kind of do with that pulse laser as a sort of a backup weapon. And then the third role is skirmisher, where you're just basically playing a hit and run game. Again, it's not the fastest mech on the field, but if it is in support of larger, slower mechs, you can use that, that run speed of 8 to great effect, especially when you're navigating difficult terrain and things along those lines. That can make the difference between life and death against like a 4-6 or something along those lines. So those are the 3 roles that I would play this particular mech in. Looking at the threat envelope, right, the sort of where it can reach out and touch people, most of the damage is in the front arc. There is, some benefit there of having the large laser on the right arm. You can torso twist, you can aim, you can kind of hit in your rear arc. You have good, just standard arc of fire because it's on your right arm, but you can hit into the rear if you torso twist with it. The only thing I will say is, again, and this is sort of a decision for you, better gunner, not so better gunner. A lot of your damage is up to the dice gods, right? Your LRM-20, yeah, you have to hit with it first. SRM-6, yeah, you have to hit with it first. But, those cluster hit tables have nothing to do with your gunnery. They're 100% luck, which sort of sucks, but it is what it is. And so you do have to consider that. If you do run this thing at gunnery 0, which, you can do a ton of damage with it, you're still not going to be landing tons of clusters every time. That's not going to affect, it's not going to guarantee you to do like, hundreds of points of damage every turn. So just something to kind of think about. Overall, I'm very impressed with this mech. I didn't think it was going to be this good, to be quite honest, because it had that weird sort of mishmash of weapons, but it's well designed. I like the armor. The heat profile seems to be really good and manageable. Potentially something, I don't know, it's probably too complicated for a new player with the AMS and all this other stuff, but I think it's something that, like, a player that has a fairly, the third game, fourth game, they have a decent handle on the mechanics of the game. You could throw this at them and give them some, some new toys to play with, so to speak. I think this is a good mech for that because it's not like, it's good. It's not crazy, you know, overheat like worthy, and you know, again, it's got good survivability, so they won't be out of the fight very quickly, and you'll keep them engaged in the game. But it's definitely a mech, you know, I would put in my force. Maybe it's one we'll see in the next Kickstarter. I don't know. I know the Wraith definitely is in the Alpha Strike box set, but I would love to see a Grim Reaper, you know, pop up, because I really think it's a cool design and a neat mech overall. But that's all I've got, guys. Speaking of buying mechs, if you want to get some BattleTech stuff, head on over to Aries Games and Minis. I've said it once, twice, a million times. I'm going to say it again. Aries Games and Minis, check it out. Army Painter paints. You get Hardware Studios, you get Fighting Piranha. All of the BattleTech vendors are, you know, basically deliver stuff, you know, through Aries. So you can get pretty much everything you need to bring your tabletop to life. And of course, all the great Catalyst stuff, the novels, the books, etc., etc. And the Force packs, most importantly, obviously, everybody loves the models. So that's that. And if you want to help out the channel, click the subscribe button. If you have clicked it, create another account and click it again. No, just kidding. Don't do that. But definitely subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe. Leave a comment. Leave a like. You know, and that really helps out the channel. If you want to go beyond that, we have Patreon. You can head on over to our Patreon. The link is in the description. And you can give us $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want to do. Each tier offers different benefits, and it's a lot of fun. It's a good community over there. So you can certainly check that out. But that's it, guys. I'm all done. I hope you enjoyed this Battlytics analysis. And of course, stay tuned. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Have a good night.